Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare
Om Srimad Holiness Srimad Ashto Tarasadhi Srimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Nama Charja Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Naim Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sriva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Mukund Radha Samihidi Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamani Ki Jai Shamanamani Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Go Pranande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you everyone for joining us for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami. It is Friday, October 7th, 2022, at least in the Western world, and tonight we're in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 8, and forgive me, I can't even remember if I was able to attend on Wednesday, so my notes might not be accurate as far as tonight's starting verse. I have 29, but I might be behind.
29. No, that's not possible.
Yeah, I might have missed it.
I agree. I have 3, 9, 3. Perfect.
Okay, so we started the 9th chapter. Okay, sorry I wasn't able to attend that. So 393, I'll be posting that verse in translation very soon. And as always, eager to hear your questions and comments. And thank you very much, Maharaj. So glad you could be with us again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you again, your Prabhu. And thank you to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tulsi Priya reminded me that we didn't finish the purport to 393. So we're on the last paragraph. I believe we started it but didn't complete that last paragraph. The only way to understand the Lord as He is by devotional service to the Lord, or by approaching the devotee of the Lord, who always has the Lord in his heart. By devotional perfection, one can understand that the impersonal Brahmajyoti is only a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, and that the 3 Purusha expansions in material creation are His plenary portions. In the spiritual sky of the Brahmajyoti, there's no change of various kalpas or millenniums, and there are no creative activities in the Vaikuntha worlds. The influence of time is conspicuous by its absence. The rays of the transcendental body of the Lord, the unlimited Brahmajyoti, are undeterred by the influence of material energy. In the material world also, the initial creator is the Lord Himself. He brings about the creation of Brahma, who becomes the subsequent creator, empowered by the Lord. Om Jnana Timiram Tasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurvidikavena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Vena Bhutale Swayam Bhutalamayam Tadhati Prapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru, Shri Jatapada Kamalam, Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha, Shri Rupam Shadrashatam, Bhavana Radhanyatam Vidam Tam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Savadhutam, Krishna Sahitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padam, Sahagana Radhika, Shri Vishakam Vitanscha, He Krishna Karuna Sindho, Dina Bandho Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Rishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Holy Priye, Svancha Kolpatarupyascha, Kripa Sindho Pyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nata Parang Paramayad Bhavata Surupam, Ananda Matram Avikalpam Vidha Varchaha, Vashyami Visvasrijamekam Vishwamatma, Bhutendriyatmakam Adas, Ta Upasritosmi. So here we see that the devotee in mature realization understands that the Brahmajyoti, although non-different from the Lord, is subordinate to the Lord, not Paramayad Bhavata Sri Rupa. Nothing is equal to or superior to the transcendental form of the personality of Godhead. All right, any questions or comments so far? Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya jnane smala darshitanta upasakanam tasmai namo bhagavate nuditena tubhyam yo nadrito nadakapagpir asat prasangaihi. The present form, or any transcendental form, expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form, upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. Purport. Regarding the personal and impersonal features of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personal forms exhibited by the Lord in his different plenary expansions are all for the benediction of all the universes. The personal form of the Lord is also worshipped in meditation as Supersoul, Paramatma, but the impersonal Brahmajyoti is not worshipped. Persons who are addicted to the impersonal feature of the Lord, whether in meditation or otherwise, are all pilgrims to hell, because as stated in Bhagavad Gita 12:5, impersonalists simply waste their time in mundane mental speculation because they are addicted more to false arguments than to reality. Therefore, the association of the impersonalists is condemned herewith by Brahman. Klesho tikataras tesham avyakta sapta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavadbir. The Arjuna directly asked Lord Krishna, which is better? Who's the better transcendentalist? One engaged in devotional service to you, or the one who's absorbed in pursuing the impersonal absolute? And the Lord had once replied that the devotee is in a better position, and that those who are on the impersonal path are also moving toward the absolute, but advancement on that path is very difficult. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyakta sapta chetasam. Those who are attached to whose minds are attached to the impersonal absolute go through so much unnecessary trouble through the process of mental speculation. Let's continue. All the plenary expansions of the personality of Godhead are equally potent, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Deeparchireva hidashantaram abhupecha deepayate vivitahetu samana dharma yastadrigeva vishnu taya vibhati govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The Lord expands himself as the flames of a fire expand one after another. Although the original flame, or Sri Krishna, is accepted as Govinda, the Supreme Person, all other expansions, such as Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha, are as potent as the original Lord. All such expanded forms are transcendental. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is made clear that the supreme truth is eternally uncontaminated by material touch. There's no jugglery of words and activities in the transcendental kingdom of the Lord. All the Lord's forms are transcendental, and such manifestations are ever identical. The particular form of the Lord exhibited to a devotee is not mundane, even though the devotee may retain material desire, nor is it manifest under the influence of material energy, as is foolishly considered by the impersonalists. Impersonalists who consider the transcendental forms of the Lord to be products of the material world are surely destined for hell. The form of the Lord is all auspicious, Mangala, and there's something here that was very interesting. Even though the devotee may be still affected by material desires while meditating on the Lord, while chanting the name of the Lord, that doesn't mean that the form of the Lord or the form of the holy name is material. The Lord's position is always transcendental. He's not produced from the mind. He's not produced from material energy. Nata param, nothing is superior to him. And sarvakaranakaran, he's the origin of everything. So even though the devotee may be imperfect in his meditation or be imperfect in having achieved purity of heart, the Lord who reveals himself is transcendental. Srila Prabhupada makes the point that all the forms of the Lord are identical. Advaita, Achyuta, Anadi, Ananta. They're all the same personality of Godhead, but the Lord manifests himself in innumerable forms, just as we hear in other translations, as a candle is one, and it manifests itself by lighting another candle. Well, all the candles are identical. Still, one is the original. So all of the Vishnu forms are identical, and yet Krishna is the supreme, original personality of Godhead. Tattva idam bhuvana mangalam, auspicious for the whole universe. Dhyanesma na darshitam te upasakam pasakam. The anadrata yusmarangreya, anadrata, tubhyam anadrata means neglecting you. Avajanati mamuta manashim tanamashta. Because he has the form of a human being, or resembling that of a human being. The fools neglect him, deride him. Anadrata, Akantyado nadrata yushmanandriya. They don't appreciate the Lord. But the devotee understands that the Lord is transcendental and he's the source of the impersonal Brahmajyoti. There's a point raised by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Brahma, that this is the form that the Lord revealed. The Lord didn't reveal himself as the Brahmajyoti. He didn't reveal himself in some other form. So Brahma's meditating naturally on the form that the Lord revealed by his causeless mercy. We've already understood from previous verses that the empiric and speculative methods didn't work for Lord Brahma. And so he came back to his lotus and meditated. And his meditation also wasn't just a speculative enterprise. He was depending on the mercy of the Lord. And then the Lord, by his mercy, manifested himself. Bhaktya mama vijanati. He's only understood by devotional service. And by the devotional service of the Lord, of Brahma, the Lord was pleased to show his transcendental form. So naturally, Brahma's appreciating this form, not like, well, why couldn't you have appeared as the Brahmajyoti? Why couldn't you have appeared as the Super Soul? Why couldn't you have appeared in some other form? Just as sometimes people, why doesn't the Lord do it this way? Why doesn't the Lord do it that way? Why does he arrange things this way? That's what he does. He's independent, Swaraj. So he appears as he chooses. And here, because Brahma was a devotee, the Lord showed him special mercy. For the impersonalist, the Lord may manifest his transcendental effulgence. But for a devotee like Brahma, Krishna manifests his personal form, which Chakravarti Thakur says is an ocean of spiritual qualities. And therefore Brahma says, let me serve you. What service can I do for you? All right, let's see, there's a question here. I'm Saraswati. Just recalling the question previously asked about instances of devotees equally attached to multiple Vishnu avatars. Is Narad Muni one such example, as he is known to have a relationship with Krishna and Narayan and Narasingha? Also, not sure which rasa with each of these avatars. It seems the rasa devotees have is extremely confidential and not revealed in most cases. Yes, it's a good example that Narad Muni approaches Narayan and Vaikuntha. He meets Krishna. He's involved in the pastimes of so many different avatars. That's possible because he's really only one person. Narada, of course, is one person, but the Lord is one person. But he's appearing sometimes as Narayan, sometimes as Krishna, sometimes as Ram, sometimes as Lord Nrsingadev. And yes, it's nice that you cited the example that Narada Muni has a relationship with these different forms that he serves. As far as I understand, Narada Muni's predominant mood of service is dasya service. He's engaged in service of the Lord. Certainly not a conjugal relationship or a parental relationship, not a friendly relationship. Dasya. Narada Muni is in the mood of serving the Lord. Question 2. It is stated that impersonalists go to hell here, but don't they go to the Brahmajyoti? That's the same as hell. Kevalyam nadakayate, prabodhanam visarshati. The Kaivalya, merging with the effulgence of the Lord, is as good as hell, because there's no service, there's no exchange. There's no exchange. A little tangential here. There was a book. We hear about all these near-death experiences where people see a benevolent being of light and all of that. There's a book written by an author who had the opposite experience, a real hellish kind of near-death experience. And she collected other such experiences of people who experienced terror or fear of different kinds, or desperation, what have you, near death. She suggests that the data is skewed in favor of those nice, comfy experiences. But that aside, the one category of hellish experience that she recounted, or negative experiences that she recounted, was people who just felt themselves nowhere. They were nowhere. It wasn't that they were in hell and facing tortures by being thrown into pits of burning fire or what have you. They just felt totally alone. They felt they were in a meaningless nowhere. So that's the Brahmajyoti. It's nowhere. There's no personal identity, no activity, no form, no quality. There are well, in prison, if you're put in isolation, that's bad. People feel that's cruel. And then in scientific experiments, sometimes there's sense deprivation where you're, we won't go into how they do it, but you're put into an environment where there's no seeing, no hearing, everything, all sensation is sort of canceled out. That's, again, very strange. So that really was a sort of a detour. But coming back to the same point that we hear again and again, that to be merged into an impersonal state is hellish, because one is deprived of the darshan of the Lord, the opportunity to serve the Lord, to have a relationship with the Lord. So the realization of Prabodhananda Saraswati is that this is as good as hell. Murari says, I hope that's right. Are the Vaikuntha planets situated in the Brahmajyoti the way the planets are situated in space? Sometimes the Brahmajyoti. Okay, so that's the first question. Yes, Prabhupada depicts the Brahmajyoti as being like the sky. It's called Paravyom. Vyom means the sky. But Paravyom, it's the transcendental sky, the spiritual sky. That's Prabhupada's translation. And in the spiritual sky, there are so many planets, just as in the material sky, there are various planets. But the planets in the spiritual sky are innumerable and eternal. So, yes, they're depicted as situated in the Brahmajyoti. And the planets are themselves sometimes seen as the source of the Brahmajyoti, or the Lord who's situated in these planets is the source of the Brahmajyoti. The sun planet is situated in the sunshine, but it's not that the sunshine is original and then the sun is situated there. The sun is the source of the shine. So the Lord is the source of the Brahmajyoti. Murari says, sometimes the Brahmajyoti is accepted as a legitimate goal, as a form of liberation. And other times, like here, it's regarded as hellish. Is this Prabhupada's protective nature at work to keep us safe? Well, first of all, it's the Bhagavatam's protective nature. The Bhagavatam itself deprecates the Brahmajyoti and recommends meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord. Ye nye rivindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhava avishuddha bhute aruya kristrena param param tata Pantiro Nadrata Yusmanandre. Here and in so many places in Bhagavatam, the Bhagavatam itself condemns really the impersonal realization from the point of view of when we take into account the sufferings of material existence, we may say that the Brahmajyoti is better because one is freed from suffering. But what is the cost? The cost is that one is condemned to lose one's individuality and lose the opportunity for sweet spiritual exchanges with the Lord. So from that point of view, it's hellish. Just like someone escapes from prison, but he escapes to some region where there's no one, there's nothing, he's all alone. So someone may say, well, he escaped. But what did he escape into? There's no one there. There's no sex. Oh, then the materialists will say, well, I get it. It's hellish. The real goal is to be freed from prison, but situated in real life, to be able to go here and there and have friends and lovers and be situated in relationships. That's enjoyment, not being all by yourself with nothing and no one. And even that is better than the Brahmajyoti, because there's not even yourself in the Brahmajyoti. We can barely picture it, but there's no, and that's part of the problem. The impersonalists and voidists, what are they aiming at? A situation in which there's no thought, no perception, no individuality. It's totally against their inherent nature. And so klesho dikataras, they go through so much trouble. Yes. What does the ananda aspect of the soul manifest? When does the ananda aspect of the soul manifest? Well, in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, it's not manifest. Although he's merged with the, you can say, blissful rays of the Brahmajyoti, real ananda is not there, because ananda is manifest when there's devotional service. There's ananda in the material exchanges, a dim, perverted reflection of ananda. We get some happiness from watching a movie or whatever it is that we do. So there's some little reflection of ananda, and therefore people keep going at it. There was some pleasure here. There was some pleasure I enjoyed. But they couldn't keep the enjoyment. It wasn't fully satisfying to begin with, and it didn't last. They can only savor the memories of it. And therefore it's frustrating, especially sex life. Even if one enjoys sex life, in old age, there's only the memory of it. There's a book, good book, materially speaking, about the founding of Saudi Arabia and its original spectacular king, Ibn Saud, who put the whole country together. Very powerful man. And part of his life was women. And he had, after all, he was a king, so he enjoyed like a king. But in his old age, he couldn't enjoy. And his doctors had various potions and so on to restore his virility. And he married sort of younger and more beautiful women. But nothing really could be done. And you see the picture of him in his old age, and you pick up the image of a person who can no longer enjoy. So that's the ananda of the material world. How enjoyable is it to begin with? And even if you think it's no matter what you say, it's great, then you can't have it. It's taken away. And in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, there's not even that. There's not even the reflection of ananda, because ananda requires perception. the perception of bliss, and perception requires a perceiver and something to be perceived. And in the Brahmajyoti, that's what we want to get rid of, duality. Kevala Advaita, absolute oneness. So if there's absolute oneness, there's no one to be in bliss and nothing to be blissful about. There's no subject, object, no existence of subject or object. Everything is one. So then where's the bliss? But in devotional service, then there's bliss. One is in touch with the internal potency of the Lord in the channel of devotional service, the ocean of devotional service. So one is always in Ananda. Yes, Ananda.
We hear that these gradual realizations from one Paramatma and Bhagavan come with the concomitant Sat and Chit, Sat Chit and Ananda, but it seems like there's some mixture, there's some level, obviously it's not Ananda, but there's some enjoyment. I suppose it's just the relief of suffering, maybe to some degree, but there's some bliss aspect in impersonal liberation.
It seems that there's some bliss aspects in material
And perhaps a tiny bit of chit as well. Or
tiny bit of chit, no,
there's nothing.
because both Ananda and chit require individual consciousness.
So why do we hear that the liberation, Brahmana liberation is like a
Blissful, bliss of
well, it's like an
Brahman.
ocean of bliss compared to the paltry bit we're experiencing now, and that ocean is like a drop compared to the Ananda of devotional service. But we do hear that it's
Blissful.
fantastic compared to what we.
One thing is that the impersonalists have some perception of Brahman. And so there's some apprehension, some hint of bliss. And as you said, first of all, there's relief from suffering, and that's perceived as bliss. You know, when you're practically drowned and then you're pulled up for a moment from the water, well, that's bliss. So relief from suffering, Shochati and Akanksati, that's perceived as blissful. And the devotees of Brahman, the Brahmanandis, they get some, let's say, some perception of a blissful reality beyond material existence. So in that sense, they get some perception of Krishna, if only in an impersonal aspect. Therefore, they're blissful to some extent. We hear of them being absorbed in Brahman, means they have some perception of the absolute blissful reality. But when they attain perfection, they can't perceive anything.
And what leads them to return to the desire of relationships, and that what hint of
Their individuality reasserts itself.
by what cause? What
By nature, just like you suppress, you know, a child is misbehaving and you get it to stop. You know, now just be good. But how long can the child be good? He's going to be active. He's going to start playing with something else because he's a child. His childish nature will come out. So the living entity is by nature personal. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has this wonderful phrase in his Brahma Samhita commentary that in impersonal realization, individuality is held in abeyance. It's held in abeyance. So it's like a prison sentence that's held in abeyance, or a fine that's held in abeyance, or an inheritance that's held in abeyance. It's there, but it's on hold. It's on hold. What does on hold means? It means it'll be back.
And then you return to the material world
You return to the
with a
material.
clean slate, though, no karmic background.
There's still, you return to the material world with no karmic background. There's still some, although karma may have been, what shall we say, one is relieved of karma, but one is still turned against the personality of Godhead, which is the root of all material desires and all material karma. So it's not a clean slate. Avishuddha bhute. Their consciousness seems to be vishuddha, absolutely pure, but Bhagavatam says no, avishuddha bhute. Not completely true. Why? Manadrita yushmadangre, because they're determined to neglect the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. They're averse to their natural function or their natural duty, their natural dharma of devotional service to the Lord. So if not devotional service, then what? Maya. Saraswati says, I saw a cartoon in a local paper showing just how so-called material happiness always eludes us. One had a picture of a young child with empty pockets and caption that he has energy and time, but no money. Second picture showed young adult with caption that he has money and energy, but no time. And last picture showed old man with captions that he has money and time, but no energy. Yes, that's the material world. Old age, you may have money, you may have time, but no energy.
Maybe not so much time.
Well, no, in the sense that, yeah, you may only have a week left or whatever, but from the time you get up to the time you take rest, you have all this time. And so in the old age homes, the elderly communities and so on, they want to fill the time.
I had it. Oh, I'm sorry, actually.
But there's nothing really that's satisfying to fill the time with. Yes.
I had a mango job. I finished pruning the tree, and the lady was very old, and she said, I'll clean everything up. I pay you the full amount, you just leave. I have nothing else to do. And this will be something nice for me that I get to pick up all these leaves.
I don't know if you could hear, but Radhe had a job trimming mango trees, and the client at the end, an elderly lady, said, you do your work and then I'll clean up. After all, I have nothing else to do. So that was some engagement for her, cleaning up the mango leaves and so on. So that's old age, the sad time, nothing to do. And so I think I've related before that when my mother was in hospice, I saw that in each hospice room, there was a television set. So here's people at the very end of life, and still they have nothing to do. Still they don't know what they're supposed to do. Parikshit Maharaj knew that I only have this much time left. Let me hear about Krishna. And here are people, they've only got days left and they don't know what to do. Click on the television and fill the time. Because money, time. but no energy and no direction. Kendra, Murari says, I don't understand why Mayavad is so popular and so prevalent if there's nothing to recommend it, nor why Krishna is considered merciful when he liberates demons to the Brahmajyoti. Why are people after it? Because it's not Krishna. Because it's another way to avoid devotional service. Material life is full of suffering, and people realize that. Some people, that's the first noble truth, right? That material life is full of suffering, and so we have to get free from desire. That's, I think, the second noble truth. And how do we get free from desire? We get free from ego. And that's the trap they fall into. We know that we're suffering. We know that it's because of our desires. How do we get free from the desires? We have to get rid of our ego. They have no information of positive desires, of positive personal spiritual reality. It's all speculated from the platform of negativity. What do we want to get free from? What do we want to get free from? So that they know we want to get free from all of these things, but there's no positive reality for them. So and therefore they wind up doing something else, the Buddhist monks who are playing cards or, whatever it is, or, religious people who are engaged in frivolous activities because they don't have that personal connection with personality of Godhead. So here, so the Voidists, what is it? Yes, the Voidists seek to escape material existence. And the Mayavadis the same way, the impersonal Kevaladvaitis, they're also seeking to get free from the miseries of material existence, but they don't want to serve. I was with some Buddhist, I was on a plane, I've told this before, with a fellow who professed to be a Buddhist. I won't go into other details, but we were having a spiritual discussion, and I got up to use the restroom and left him with an Isha Upanishad. And when I came back, he left the Isha Upanishad aside. He said, it's about a deity. It's about a deity. So that was it for him. That killed the interest. And then taking it further, he elaborated that his father or his uncle, someone very close to him, had died a very difficult death. I think that's what it was. He'd suffered a lot. And therefore, how could there be a God? So he was interested in something spiritual, but not a deity. Not a deity. So this is their position. They don't have the Sukriti, the transcendental credit, to understand. Brahma has that credit. He has the credit of devotional service. And therefore, the Lord reveals his personal form. But those who don't have that credit, or worse, those who are averse, anything but a deity, anything but God, this is where they may wind up, either on the path toward voidness or on the path toward impersonal oneness, but not toward the personality of Godhead, because they don't want to serve a personality of Godhead. They're averse to service. And we see that they'll go through it, or any kind of contortions, mental contortions, to avoid arriving at the conclusion that there's a personality of Godhead. Any kind of sophistical arguments, anything. Just we don't want a deity that we have to serve. Kendra Prabhu says, from Gurujan Prabhu's My Glorious Master, Prabhupada, one devotee ventured, is it that impersonalists must fall down? Or is it that only most of them fall down? Prabhupada replied, all of them fall down. Why? Prabhupada was silent for several seconds. The silence accentuated the dim light that mixed with the dawn sun and illuminated his golden face. Because he seemed to be thinking deeply how to explain this esoteric point to his children. They get lonely. They get lonely. So that's individuality reasserting itself. That's individuality. Murari says, I think we should call the voidists avoidists. Hare Krishna. All right, Radhesha, you're on for kirtan.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Stotra Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunikiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Shamanamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Thank you all very much. We're in our morning here in Vrindavan, so we're keen to move on. And we'll bid you all goodbye with special thanks to Haridas Prabhu and to all the devotees.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jayādvaita Maharaj Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.